I come to the Father, I come to the Son, I come to the Spirit, the three in one. I come to the water, just as I am, oh God, make me new once again.
Well, good morning and welcome to Fridays with Francis. It's good to be with you today. We're getting some weather that feels a lot like spring. That's a good thing since the calendar says it's spring. Do you remember the old Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom, I believe it was called, television programs where the main character, Merlin Olsen perhaps, would venture out in some place in a remote area of the world. Most of the time it seems like it was in Africa, and they would be exploring various kinds of wildlife. And then the footage would be rather amazing sometimes. You would see the way things generally operate with the wildlife and the animal kingdom. It was fascinating to watch, and I remember watching many episodes. Well, a few months back, I felt like I was watching one of those episodes. Several of our family had gathered together at our home there on the lake where we live, and there was a duck out in the water right at the edge of our pier, and the duck was swimming around minding his own business, and then all of a sudden, without any warning, a bald eagle came dropping out of the sky in a rapid rate and attacked the duck and tried to get his talons into the duck. The duck fought him off and flapped around in the water, and the eagle kept trying to get the duck, and the duck kept getting away. The eagle would come back and try to get him again, and it was a fascinating thing to watch. And I noticed our family was cheering for the duck. And then the duck discovered that if it could just get under the pier, that he would have some protection. And finally, the duck managed to get under the pier and did not come out from under the pier. Now, the eagle went up and lit in a tree and stayed there for quite some time looking for the duck. But the duck outlasted the eagle, and finally the eagle flew away. I can't get that image out of my mind because it reminds me of grace. I know my kids once asked me, "Dad, does everything have to be a sermon?" Well, when you're a preacher, I guess it does. And I guess I should thank them for all of the sermon illustrations they provided me over the years. But that incident really reminded me of God's grace. God's grace is kind of like that pier. It was already there. It was there before the duck ever knew that he was going to need it. And sometimes life comes along kind of like that bald eagle. We don't know it's coming. We can't anticipate it's coming. All of a sudden, we just find ourselves confronted with it. And God provides for us the grace necessary to make our way into a place of shelter. I really like Psalm 91, and a portion of that I'll read the first 4 verses. Assurance of God's protection is what the subheading for the psalm is called. Psalm 91, you who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. Those are powerful words. And I don't know that they speak to anybody in particular, but they are powerful words for me. And I trust that you can see them in a meaningful way in your life. I don't know if there are things that have fallen upon you or things that seem to have caught you off guard. But remember that God's grace is always present. The Apostle Paul reminded us that God's grace is sufficient. And all we must do is rely upon God's grace. And his grace already precedes us. One of the great doctrines of the church is God's prevenient grace, how God's grace goes before us, preparing the way. Even before we know we need God's grace, God is already there. So that's my thought for you for this Friday. And I trust that you will have a great day and that you will see and experience God's grace in all the world around you, and that you'll know his loving care. So until next Friday, this is Francis Daniel, and thank you for joining me, and go in peace. Amen.
I come to the Father, I come to the Son, I come to the Spirit, the three in one. I come to the water, just as I am.